Isagi Yoichi is an ugly, pathetic loser who wants to become the world's greatest striker, but loses the final against some random NPCs. Soon after, he receives a letter from the Japanese Football Association informing him that he has been selected as an athlete for a project named Bluelock. This project is designed to create the ultimate striker from 300 players from all over Japan. Will Isagi be able to change his destiny and become the greatest striker? During an intense game between Ichinan High School and Matsukaze High, Isagi Yoichi is determined to reach the national as he keeps pressing towards the goal. As he is about to shoot, his useless teammate calls out to him, and without thinking, Isagi passes the ball. Just then, the useless teammate pulls a Darwin Núñez and somehow misses the goal.
Nikolajsen is the defender. It's absolutely glorious. What a goal. Oh, it's not!
This allows the opponents to counterattack and score another goal. The match ends with Isagi's team losing 2-0 to Matsukaze High. Matsukaze's ace, Kira, gets insane appreciation from the crowd and the media, which pisses off Isagi. Meanwhile, Isagi's teammates are crying like bitches because they lost. But they still believe that they are the best team in Japan. Isagi, on the other hand, knows that they are some pathetic losers who couldn't even make it to the nationals. On his way back, Isagi thinks about his idol, Noel Noah, and how he won't be able to become a superstar like him. His dream of becoming a striker for the Japanese national team and lifting the World Cup is over. Isagi wonders if he had taken that shot himself. Would his fate be any different? Just then, tears begin rolling down his cheeks and he starts screaming. This scares the shit out of little kids playing there, and they run away, deeming Isagi a creep. After all this, Isagi reaches home and informs his parents about his loss. At the dinner table, his mother informs him about some letter they received from the Japan Football Association. It turns out Isagi has been chosen to become a certified athlete. This makes him wonder why they would choose a pathetic loser like him. Anyways, upon reaching the Federation, Isagi comes across Kira, who compliments him for his fascinating IQ, and they get along really well. Just as they enter the building, Isagi gets overwhelmed by all the guys present there, which turns him on. Kira even recognizes some of them as Isagi realizes that all of them are strikers. Suddenly, a frail-looking guy appears at the spot and introduces himself as Igo Jinpachi, the man who has been hired to make sure Japan lifts the World Cup. According to him, Japan needs just one thing to surpass every other nation, and that is the birth of a revolutionary striker. He further informs them that the 300 strikers here have been gathered for the same purpose, and from this point onward, all of them will live together, undergoing special training. After hearing all this, Kira refuses to participate in this nonsensical program. The other guys also agree with him, which pisses off Igo, who instructs them to leave if they want to. According to his ideology, football is not about teamwork or anything like that. Football is all about scoring more goals than your opponents. Kira, however, keeps opposing his ideology and gets mocked by Igo for this. He quotes the words of various players, including Noel Noah, Pele, and Cantona, to prove his ideology. He further asserts that one cannot become the world's greatest striker if he lacks ego. Igo's speech makes Isagi realize that he lacked the ego to take a shot himself that cost him the match. With this, Isagi rushes towards the blue lock as other players follow him. With this, Isagi and the others are handed over the outfit after they reach their destination. He then enters Room Z, where he comes across Kira and some other guys. After they are done with introductions, Igo informs them that the numbers on their uniforms represent their ranking in Blue Lock, and it turns out Isagi is at number 2999. Igo further informs them that the rankings will change depending on their performance, and the top 5 guys will get to represent the Japanese under-20 team. On the contrary, whoever gets eliminated will never get to represent Japan. He then announces the commencement of a game of tag, and whoever ends up with the ball at the end will get eliminated. Being ranked the lowest, Igarashi ends up becoming IT. Without wasting any time, Igarashi starts targeting other players, but being the pathetic loser he is, he fails to hit anyone. He then comes across a guy who is still sleeping and decides to target him. Just then, the guy wakes up and kicks him right in his ugly-ass face. Another guy calls out to him for not playing fair as Igarashi sees this opportunity to hit him. This pisses him off, and he ends up hitting Isagi accidentally. Isagi begins pursuing other players, but realizes that his physical abilities are not enough to catch. With no other option left, he decides to target the weakest player, Igarashi. Just then, Kunigami hurls Bachira away from him, and he ends up landing on Igarashi, who gets injured. This provides Isagi an opportunity to strike him and secure his future. However, he realizes that if still targets the weakest person, then he won't change anything. With this, he decides to target Bachira, who steals the ball from him and begins targeting Kira. Suddenly, he passes the ball to Isagi, who smashes it right into Kira's face. Henri Tayeri tells everyone at the JFU meeting that they won't be able to lift the World Cup trophy if things remain like this. Hirotoshi Buratsuta, the chairman of Japanese Football Union, is fine with this since his only concern is money, and even mocks her for believing that the Japanese national team is capable enough to win the World Cup. She claims that they can win the World Cup, and the only person who can help them win is Jinpachi Ego, as he has been given the task of finding and training the best striker for their team. As the tag team game ends, Kira is stupefied and unable to comprehend what just happened. Ego congratulates everyone for making it to the next round and tells Kira to get his sorry ass out of there. Frustrated by the thought of never being able to be a part of the national team, Kira yells and tells Ego that this stupid game cannot decide his future. He also claims that he is far better than many others here and this shitty game has nothing to do with football. Ego then surprises him by telling that this area where they played the tag team game is the same size as the penalty area of a football ground from where the majority of the goals in football are scored. He further clarifies that if someone doesn't know how to play in this area, then he isn't worthy of playing as a striker in the national team. He further tells him that if he is the one who's running away, he should have a keen sense of interpersonal space, tactics, and positioning. On the other hand, if he is the one who's chasing, he should have error-free dribbling and aiming with high-quality kicks. Upon asking how a game of 2 minutes can decide a player's abilities, while an actual soccer game lasts for 90 minutes, Ego responds that on an average, a player possesses the ball for 136 seconds in a match, so he missed a chance to prove himself. He further states that Kira could have kicked the ball towards immobile Igaguri as 1 second was still left when he got hit by the ball, but he missed it by accepting defeat in his mind. A striker has a lot of responsibility on his shoulders and should fight until the very last second of the match, as they cannot afford to miss any opportunity in the game. Ego states that he is finding the egoism in a player that he saw in Isagi and Bachira, as Isagi targeted someone ranked higher than him, while Bachira stole the ball and aimed at the strongest one. Kira still can't understand this logic and leaves angrily. Isagi ponders his decision to kick the ball, feeling pumped up by the outcome. He questions Bachira about taking the risk and passing the ball to him when he could have ignored the ball, potentially eliminating Bachira. Bachira explains that Isagi's expression indicated he would kick it, so he was sure about it. Emphasizing the importance of results, he said that he trusted Isagi, which led to their victory. Ego reminds them of the feeling of victory, stating that each win contributes to the growth of their egos. He congratulates them for passing the admission exam and tells them that the remaining 11 individuals will compose Team Z, living and collaborating closely, though occasional betrayals may occur. During the third day, Team Z engages in gym training, where Isagi notices Raichi's superior speed and Kuon's impressive jumping ability. Later, at the cafeteria, while they all enjoy rice and miso soup, their side dish selection varies according to their rank. As the 299th member, Isagi receives natto, much to the envy of Igarashi, who, being 300th, was given pickled radish. Meanwhile, Gagamaru gets dumplings, but his meal is disrupted when Naruhaya steals one, prompting Gagamaru to chase him. Team Z decides to conclude the issue of player positions by playing a game of rock, paper, scissors. Isagi wins this game and chooses to play as center forward. About an hour earlier, Ego informs them about the selection process, which involves 5 groups with 5 teams each. He states that only the top 2 teams will move to the next round, while the rest of them will be eliminated from Blue Lock. However, the top scorers from the 3 eliminated teams in each group will stay and move to the next round. In case of equal goals scored by 2 or more players within a team, their ranking will be determined by fair play points. Yellow card results in a deduction of 1 point, 2 yellows result in a deduction of 3 points, a direct red card leads to a deduction of 4 points, and receiving both a yellow card and a direct red card results in a deduction of 5 points. Team Z finalizes their lineup 5 minutes before the beginning of the game. The team formation is set in the following manner: Isagi and Bachira at the forward positions, Gagamaru, Raichi, Kunigami, and Imamura at the midfield, while Kuon, Naruhaya, Igarashi, and Shigiri become defenders, and Lemon agrees to be goalkeeper. The first match is held at Building 5, where Team X competes against Team Z in a 45-minute game. As the match begins, Bachira passes the ball to Isagi. However, Raichi quickly intercepts the ball, showing a lack of concern towards teamwork, stressing that only the top scorer will be selected for the next round. Kunigami supports Raichi's stance and gets possession from him by a sudden tackle. Eventually, other teammates leave their positions so that they can score a goal. On the other hand, Team X's players also get involved in conflict over who should score. All this chaos leaves Isagi unsure about his next move. All of a sudden, Shoei Baro, ranked 250th, gets control of the ball and dodges the defenders with a skillful heel flick, going past Isagi with his cleverness. Kuon and Imamura attempt to stop Baro, but in vain as he outclasses them both with his amazing dribbling and eventually scores the first goal. Bro thinks he's him. The debate continues over positions within Team Z. Isagi and Bachira agree to play as a team by passing between themselves, but Igarashi spoils their plan by seizing the ball and refusing to pass to anyone. However, he ultimately ends up losing the possession himself. Noticing the disagreement and selfishness within Team Z, players from Team X decide to follow Baro in order to go after collective victories rather than individual goals. As Team Z attempts to defend by surrounding Baro with 6 players, he passes the ball to his teammates, who avail the chance and score another goal. Observing Baro's central role in leading and scoring for Team X by teamwork, Isagi ponders upon Ego's advice to reinvent football from scratch, realizing that Baro's approach makes 1, and their team's approach revolves around this 1. As he thinks if this is what he actually meant by starting from 0, it flashes through his mind that his team's inability to move from 0 to 1 impedes their chances of victory. Team X scores 2 additional goals while Team Z's internal conflicts are intensifying. Isagi realizes that their inability to follow a single strategy as a team is the reason behind their failure. Ultimately, Team X scores a 5th goal, confirming Team Z's defeat. As Bachira gets tired, he notices that there are only 3 minutes left, which isn't sufficient to score 5 goals. However, he plans that since the enemy's defense has weakened, he and Isagi can now try to score at least 1 goal. Bachira plans to distract the opponents and then pass a long ball to Isagi for a shot. When the game resumes, Isagi passes to Bachira and sprints towards the opponent's goal, hoping to increase the morale of his team by scoring a goal so that they can win the next game. Bachira sends a long pass to Isagi, but Baro gets furious, insisting that he won't allow anyone to succeed over him. Kunigami and Raichi ask for the ball, while Isagi is confused about where he should pass. Isagi, stuck between playing for himself and sacrificing for his team, decides to pass to Kunigami, who scores. Isagi surprises himself by passing, while Raichi is upset because he wanted the possession to score. Isagi tries to explain, but Raichi calls him names. Kuon tries to calm Raichi down by indicating that they have scored, but Raichi is acting selfish and only thinks about being the top scorer to advance. Baro criticizes Isagi, stating that he isn't talented enough if he gets nervous in front of the goal. The game ends with Team X winning 5-1, leaving Isagi doubting his skills as a striker. After the first game, Team Z keeps arguing over the central forward position. Kuon interrupts, urging them to stop arguing and to learn from their previous loss. He emphasizes that they need to aim for at least 7 points, as winning just 2 games won't be enough. Kunigami proposes an idea while acknowledging that his goal wouldn't have been possible without Bachira and Isagi's contributions. Bachira comes out from the shower unclothed, which turns Isagi on once again.
Yeah, boy.
He praises Kunigami's goal and stresses on the importance of teamwork for victory. Chigiri expresses his doubt about Igo's teachings, mentioning the lack of World Cup victories by players like Messi and Cristiano Ronaldo. However, he believes Igo's concept of creating a football team from scratch gives them a hint. Isagi admits that they lack a firm strategy, but shares his interpretation of starting from football's zero, where individuals focus merely on personal achievements. He praises Barrow for breaking this cycle and uniting the team's efforts, transforming chaos into cohesion. Kuon suggests that the striker indicates the change from 0 to 1, while other positions augment this effect to 10 or 100. Naruhaya and Isagi believe that Igo's rule about the top scorer is a clue about the striker's importance in building a strong team. Igo shows up and relieves them by saying that they're on the right path and making progress. He tells them that Team V has won against Team Y with a score of 8-0 in the second game at Building 5. While appreciating their progress, Igo states that they still need to figure out how to climb from 0 to 1. He emphasizes that as Japan prefers clearly defined roles in baseball where they excel because of this organized approach, they need to define each player's role just like that in soccer too. However, he stresses that football requires not only following the assigned tasks, but personal skills and initiative too. Scoring a goal in football disrupts the opponent's lineup. Igo urges them to rethink what strategies they can adopt to achieve this goal. The next morning, Isagi wakes up Bachira, and they train together with Kunigami. As team practice starts, Igarashi complains of leg cramps, but the team doesn't believe him. He then claims his leg is broken. While having lunch at 12 p.m., Raichi scolds Gagamaru for not using chopsticks. In the evening, they are enjoying free time with Chigiri, focusing on his hair and Imamura on his skin. Following this, all the players from Team Z are telling about their weapons and motto so that they can plan the strategy accordingly. Everyone confidently tells about their weapons except Isagi, who isn't sure about it, and Chigiri, who refuses to tell. Team Z determines that even if they know each other's weapons, they won't be able to win if they lack a proper strategy, just like the previous match. Isagi reflects upon if they can strategize a plan where everyone gets equal chance to use their weapons. Kuon suggests that if they rotate their positions clockwise after each few minutes during the match, everyone can get a chance to play as a striker and show their abilities. And while having dinner, Isagi keeps thinking about his soccer skills, that he doesn't have any weapons unlike other players. Kunigami arrives there too and thanks him for a good pass in the last game. Isagi, preoccupied by the thoughts of being a weaker player than others, asks why Kunigami plays soccer. Kunigami replies that he has wanted to be like a superhero since his childhood, but in soccer and not the comic book kind. When Kunigami was young, he used to idealize the soccer players who scored heroic goals and won games. He didn't care if people mocked or laughed at him for being a soccer fan. Isagi thinks that Kunigami is a really cool dude, as he is determined and quite sure about his goals. To Isagi's surprise, who is still eating natto since last week, Kunigami orders steak for dinner. Kunigami explains about a bonus system where players earn points for scoring goals, which can be exchanged for steak and other stuff. He shares half of his steak with Isagi, stating that he wouldn't have been able to score a goal without his assist, and they both enjoy it. Isagi thanks Kunigami for being nice, but Kunigami gets awkward. Isagi realizes Kunigami isn't good at taking compliments. Team Y competes against Team Z in the match 4 at Building 5. Team Y also lost their first game just like Team Z. Kuan alerts everyone to be cautious for Hibiki Okawa, who is number 9 on Team Z and their best striker. While explaining his plan, Kuan says that depending on who is the striker, the rest of the team will support them by playing in their style. Lemon finds it too risky to change the goalkeeper often, so he decides to stay as the goalkeeper for the whole game. Chigiri decides to play as defender for the entire game. Raichi makes fun of Chigiri for this, thinking he's not talented enough, but agrees with the plan. Moreover, they decide that players will be rotated from the highest to the lowest rank. As the game begins, Bachira is the first striker, with Kunigami and Igarashi behind him. Since Bachira's power is dribbling, he tries to move forward with the ball on his own. He successfully dodges 2 players only to find 2 more in front of him. As Ikiniko joins in, making it 3 against Bachira, he passes the ball. Isagi notices this tactic as they've practiced it before. He says their tactic is very aggressive and relies on their individual skills, while their opponent is playing defensively to stop them. Isagi thinks that since they have many different skills, eventually one of them will work. After 10 minutes, the team switches positions, with Kunigami being the striker and Bachira and Kuan supporting him. Kunigami quickly instructs his teammates to move forward. Isagi knows Kunigami's strength is his left-footed shot from mid-range, so they somehow need to get him the ball in front of the goal. They do it perfectly but in vain, as Team Y manages to block Kunigami's shot. Isagi notices that the other team is playing defensively, and Okawa isn't even moving much. Kunigami tries to score again, but opponent defenders are quick and it gets blocked once more. When Nico seizes the possession, Okawa suddenly starts sprinting, and Isagi figures out what's happening, but now it's too late. Instead of attacking aggressively, Team Y lured Team Z forward. With most of Team Z's players in attacking positions leaving behind Chigiri as the only defender, Nico makes a long pass to Okawa, who ends up one-on-one against Iemon. Okawa gently shoots the ball, lifting it over Iemon and scoring the first goal. Team Z switches positions after another 10 minutes again, and Kuan becomes the striker with Kunigami and Raichi supporting him. Since Kuan's skill is jumping, he jumps and seizes the ball. While Kunigami is unsure what to do next, Nico steals the ball. Team Y then starts passing among themselves in defense, and Isagi realizes that since they're already in the lead, they are trying to waste the time. Raichi's turn comes next, with Kuan and Imamura backing him. Raichi asks for the ball, but they struggle to pass it to him. At halftime, Raichi and Imamura are mad about being unable to seize possession. The team fears pressing too hard might lead to a counterattack by the enemy, particularly Okawa, just like before. Chigiri suggests instead of wasting time on less effective tactics, they should support Bachira and Kunigami as strikers because their playing style was bothering the opponents. Kuan says that changing their strategy at this point of the game won't be helpful, emphasizing the importance of sticking to their strategy, which involves switching the roles to keep the enemy guessing. As the second half begins, Team Y continues to waste time by passing the ball among themselves, frustrating Imamura because they can't get the possession. He moves forward and manages to help Gagamaru steal the ball just before switching the turns. Now it's Gagamaru's turn to be the striker, with Imamura and Naruhaya supporting him. Keeping in mind Gagamaru's game style, Isagi plans to send a quick but difficult cross into the area in front of the goal. Isagi kicks the ball a bit harder than required, but Gagamaru, with his agility, reaches it and tries to score with a header but in vain as the goalkeeper stops it. They get a corner kick. But Isagi fears the enemy team might counterattack if they get the ball. Team Z gets ready for corner kick. Isagi thinks this is their best chance to score, but then he remembers his earlier feeling of something bad about to happen. As the corner is taken, Isagi surprises his teammates by unexpectedly running backward towards Nico. He realizes he misjudged the situation, and it's actually Nico who's causing them trouble and creating chances for Okawa. The goalkeeper blocks and manages to punch the ball away. Kuon gets worried because they've sent too many players into the enemy's territory, leaving their side defenseless. And if Okawa gets the ball, he will score, ending their journey in blue lock. However, Isagi realizes his bad feeling was about Nico and quickly steals the ball before it reaches him. Isagi avails the opportunity to score and shoots, but Nico blocks it. However, Gagamaru rushes in and scores, injuring himself in the process, but appreciating Isagi for the good pass. Nico tells Isagi that had he not realized their strategy, they would have counterattacked and win the game. Isagi replies that they won't let him run free again, as they are aware of his strategy now and will be victorious. Nico tells Isagi that even though he has the same eyes as him, he won't let them win as he is controlling the game. The episode ends with Isagi and Igarashi trying to exchange their boring meals with the delicious meal of Kunigami, who's eating curry with rice. He agrees to it, but Chigiri ruins their plan by giving Kunigami a more tempting offer. He offers to exchange his stir-fried vegetables with curry rice, to which Kunigami agrees happily. Now, Isagi and Igarashi have to eat their same boring meal of natto and pickled radishes.